Hype levels right now are through the roof. So I was working on the March Madness video, and then I got a notification about a tweet about the another thing about the new Robotech comic series coming out. So I went ahead and read it, and it's got some really good stuff in there. Like, I was impressed. So they interviewed Brian Wood, who is writing the new Robotech comic series, and they asked him some questions, and some of it was stuff we already knew. You know, when does it take? They ask, how do we first see Macross Island? He's like, when the ship's crashing into it. How else? That's great. Love that. But I, mostly because of his response, it was great. He's like, I'm not changing that. Yeah, so there's a few questions they asked, which, like I said, some were no-brainers. Others I found were kind of interesting. First, they asked what time period is it going to take place, and he said it's the same time period as in the show. Being in a different universe, that's fine with me. If it was going to be a little bit more realistic, like if they were trying to make it more real world, I'd be like, late 90s. That none of those are the style of late 90s. But I'm perfectly fine with it since it's in an alternate universe, not real world. That's just, it'd be silly. It's sci-fi. So he explains that he is watching the episodes and reading other comic adaptations of this section of Robotech while he's doing the writing, which honestly is a good idea. I have no problem with that. Nothing more to be said. That's a good idea. Here's the biggest thing that he said specifically about Robotech that I thought was most interesting. Is he said he's going to be tweaking the characters a little bit, like their personalities and so forth. You know how I feel about there's a fine line between, staying too close to the original material and straying too far from the original material. There's a fine line there. But I've got to say, I'm fine with him tweaking the characters' personalities, because like he mentions, he's going to take some of Rick's earnestness off. That's great. There's times where his earnestness almost seems out of character in the show, I would say. And then the way he's talking about Min-Mei, it sounds like she's gonna be a whole lot different. He talks about how in the show, the way she is in the show, where she's always being the giggly damsel in distress, as he put it, and always having Rick come and save her. Some of that stuff's just kind of outdated. The way her personality is just an outdated persona. And that she's going to be a whole lot more active in this show, in this series, as she's going to have a little bit more of a leading role as far as she controls her own destiny and she goes out there and does stuff herself instead of having stuff happen to her. Perfectly fine with that. That is, I agree. Min-Mei has not, her character has not aged well. That is definitely a stereotypic 80s character. And I'm perfectly fine with that, the tweaking for that. And, you know, I'm fine with everything he's said so far. Then he talks about how he goes about writing for established franchises, because he's also done X-Men and Star Wars and a couple other stuff. Aliens. He's done a lot of stuff as far as established franchises go, and so he names some of those, and then he goes on and describes how he goes about with some of those established franchises. He says first he establishes parameters for what he's going to do, and then he defines the area of storytelling that he's going to use, and he sticks to it and goes about making it possible, doing everything he can to make that possible. And that's great. That's not a bad system to have. I mean, that's kind of what businesses do with their business models and stuff, where they establish what they want to do with their business and how they're going to go about doing those things, and, you know, determining the success and so forth. That's a very smart thing to do. But I just thought that was interesting. And then at the very end of the article, this article, by the way, I did not mention, is from NEWSaRAMA, which is one that has not covered the Robotech comics yet. But at the end of the article, they have a quote from him, and he says, I think Robotech is a great series. Smart, diverse, engaging, and truly has mass appeal. My goal here is to show that, to prove that to people. Great. That's exactly what I personally want to do too. I have the same goal where I'm trying to show people, hey, this is a good show. Watch it. So I think this is great. I think I've been nervous. I've said this before. I've been nervous about this comic series, but the more and more I hear about it, the more and more excited I get for it. I'm in pretty high level hype mode. Not quite Breath of the Wild hype mode, but I'm pretty hyped for this comic series to finally come out. I have my pre-order. I have my pull list. I got it covered. So, what do you guys think about this story? I have the link down below if you need to read it. What do you think about what he said? What do you think about this new comic series coming out? Just give your thoughts and opinions down below. I love reading comments. I love responding to comments. So just leave them down below. Let's have a conversation. Let's open up the communities. So, again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.